welcome back to my channel. Today me and Butchin are going to react to Victoria Rachel's daily rabbit routine. Before we get started, I just want to add that this video is not meant to educate Victoria. Everything I'm saying, I'm sure that she already knows, and she knows so much more. So this isn't really meant to tell her what she's doing wrong. More so, I think there's a lot of things in these rabbit routines that are, one, very personal to her rabbits that may not be applicable to your rabbits, or two, things that she does that can be really misinterpreted. A lot of people watch these rabbit routines and take it as an all-knowing guide as what you need to know before you buy a rabbit. And they use these as care guides, and I think there's a lot of stuff in rabbit routines that isn't always the best for you to implement in your own rabbit care. Okay, so let's get started. I love her intro. Oh.
So my morning always begins with Cleo jumping on my bed and waking me up at about 7 in the morning, and she's basically saying, hey, give me some pellets.
Oh, I love that.
So then I finally wake up and I get the rabbits their pellets, and this is the happiest time of the day for them. I don't necessarily think pellets are necessary in a rabbit's diet or the healthiest, but I personally feed just a tiny bit, just to make sure the rabbits are doing okay. As soon as a rabbit doesn't eat their pellets, then I know something is wrong.
I completely agree with this. I don't think pellets are a necessary part of your rabbit's diet, but in regards to treats, they're some of the healthiest treats that you can feed. So I like to treat pellets just as a treat, and I like to give a little bit I don't do it every morning. I'm not that much of a routine. I try to do it at least once a day, and I think it's really smart what she's, oh my goodness. He sees Sachin running around. Do you want to go down? You don't have to be up here. You can leave. I think it's really smart what she's saying about if your rabbits aren't eating their pellets, then you know something is wrong. So I really agree with that. I think it's a great habit for people to get into the routine of feeding their rabbits pellets at least once a day, just to make sure that their rabbits aren't in any early signs of GI stasis or hiding any other rabbit illnesses.
For the most part, the rabbits stick to their separate dishes, but then Lola is a faster eater, so she eventually finishes all of her pellets and then she tries to eat Cleo's because she is a piggy.
Anyone that knows me knows that I'm not a huge fan of bowls for anything besides water. When it comes to feeding your rabbits food in the bowl, I think you're missing out on a great opportunity to just keep everything more enriching and exciting. A way better alternative than to feeding in a bowl is actually scatter feeding, where you pretty much just scatter or throw their pellets all around the room, and what this does is it forces them to use their senses and to look around and to try to find all the pellets. Another thing that this can help prevent, especially in bonded pairs, is territorial aggression. A lot of bonded pairs do really well together until food comes out, and then you'll have rabbits that just get very territorial over their food, and this can obviously lead to aggression. And it seems like what's happening is since Lola eats faster, she goes and tries to eat Cleo's food. I'm sure Victoria does a great job of monitoring her rabbits and making sure that there is no serious fights, but for someone who isn't as experienced, or maybe for someone who feeds pellets and then leaves, this could potentially turn into a terrible fight when one rabbit is trying to claim the territory of a bowl. But rather, when you're scatter feeding the pellets, one, it's a lot harder for rabbits to overeat and eat really fast because they actually have to move around while they're eating. And also, if one rabbit decides to get territorial over the food, they can really only get territorial over like a small area, so then the other rabbit can just go decide to eat somewhere else. Also, she's only feeding a small amount of pellets. I want to say a tablespoon, but don't quote me on that. So she's only feeding a small amount of pellets, so in a bowl is fine, but if you do have younger rabbits and you're feeding unlimited pellets or a larger amount of pellets, feeding it in a bowl, sometimes rabbits get so excited that they eat really fast, and this can actually be a choking hazard. So scatter feeding is also great for that. I love how Lola's resting her dewlap.
And then of course the rabbits are happy, so they end with a flop.
Oh, I love that.
Then I get started with cleaning the rabbit area. Yes, there's poop on the floor. Yes, my rabbits are litter box trained. Rabbits are gonna get poop on the ground anyways because
Preach,
they
girl,
jump out of the
preach.
box, it flies out of the box. Rabbits also use poop as a territory marker, so it's gonna get on the floor and I don't really care.
A lot of people think that litter box training is kind of like a perfect solution to not having any more stray poops and stray pees. And people think that if you have those issues, it just means you haven't litter box trained your rabbit. First of all, litter box training is not really training as it is so much just using their natural instincts. When rabbits use the restroom, they like to scoot their butt all the way up to a corner so nothing can sneak up behind them. And when you're using a litter box there, it's pretty natural that eventually they just learn to go in it. Rabbits are also very clean, so they like to keep their territory clean. So then they do really well with using the litter box. But again, it's not because you've trained them to do so, it's because those are their natural instincts. Rabbits also have other natural instincts, which means that they want to mark their territory, and sometimes they want to leave a few stray poops lying around. Also, rabbits might get poop stuck to the bottom of their feet, and sometimes they just don't make it to the litter box in time. You can see sometimes a little trail of poop where they were trying to get to the litter box, but it just started squirting out before they were ready. So I think you need to be aware of that. I think a lot of people glorify what it's like to have rabbits, especially free roam rabbits. If you're free roaming them in your house, even if they are litter box trained, there are going to be accidents and you are going to have to be doing a lot of cleaning. Of course, this is different. Some rabbits are perfect with their litter boxes. Sachin gets 2 or 3 poops out of his litter box max, and Bachin on the other hand is he's better about it sometimes than others, but he kind of always has a lot of accidents.
This is a prime example of that. Then we have to fill the rabbit's hay box because hay is important, obviously. And my rabbits love to go into my closet. I've tried to block it off. They still get in. They disappear into Narnia.
2 things here. One, it looks like she only has 1 litter box for her rabbits. This can work for some bonded pairs, but I personally would never advise it. Again, rabbits can just get very territorial, and especially when it's an area that they're pooping and peeing. And like we said before, pooping and peeing is one way that they mark their territory. Every so often, you'll have a rabbit that just gets really territorial over the litter box and won't let the other one use it. This doesn't seem like a huge deal because it just seems like they're not going to be able to toilet in the litter box. But if that's your rabbit's only source of hay, which it looks like it is in this video, that can be really terrible. So make sure you always have 2 litter boxes. And an even better precaution to take is to have 2 litter boxes on opposite ends of the room. So that way, if a rabbit does decide to claim a litter box or even a little area, your other rabbit can just go somewhere else. Oh, and also with the hay racks or the hay boxes, first of all, I love what she has. It looks super creative. I remember I really wanted to make that for my rabbits. But the more research I've done, I actually wouldn't advise hay racks for rabbits. I want to do an entire video about this, but first of all, rabbits, they're built to eat from the ground. If you see a rabbit, if this is their face, this is their mouth. Let me get a rabbit. I finally got him. I probably didn't grab him the nicest. Thank you for being very cooperative. Okay, this is a rabbit. This is their face. His mouth is pretty much at the bottom of his face. So when he sits like this, that's how he's made to eat. If he wants to use a hay rack, he actually has to tilt his head up, like this, which is an extremely unnatural angle. And especially if you're using hay racks that have the wire or anything where it's harder to access the hay, what actually happens is they not only have to tilt up, but they also have to pull back. And this is a muscle that they'd never use. A lot of people say don't use water bottles because it forces them to tilt at an unnatural angle. This is the same principle, but it's actually worse because not only are they tilting at an unnatural angle, they're then pulling, and this really messes up the alignment in their back. There's actually some recent studies showing how the same thing can happen in horses if you're using hay nets that are too high. So I highly don't recommend hay racks. This is pretty new information. I saw it on a horse Facebook group, and then I feel like it just made a lot of sense to apply to rabbits. So that's what I'm trying to advocate for. So yeah, please don't use hay racks. It's a lot better to just put the hay directly in the litter box. I think a lot of people worry that the rabbits will pee in the hay. They do pee in some of the hay, but they're also really smart. They're not going to eat the soiled hay, and it's just, I don't know, I think people make a bigger deal of it than it is. You obviously don't want them to be eating soiled hay, but if they eat a little bit of it, it's not the biggest deal in the world. And as long as you're on top of cleaning out the litter box, it should never be so filthy that the hay is terrible to touch it. So just put the hay in the litter box. It's easier, it's better for the rabbits, it's a lot more natural. And there's so much shedding, I don't even think I can keep you up here, man. You're just gonna make my allergies so worse. I'm sorry. I hate allergies. Oh, please don't use hay racks. They're just so unnecessary. But I love that she has an open litter box. I think open litter boxes are so amazing.
Then I just go and I refill their water just so they get some fresh water.
So she's refilling the water in the sink, which I guess isn't terrible depending on where you live. I personally only like to give my rabbits filtered water. I think that if I wouldn't drink it, I wouldn't give it to my rabbits. I don't drink bathroom tap water, so I don't give it to my rabbits. Also, I think the more dangerous thing here is how she cleans out the water bowl. Water is just a great way to grow bacteria. Just think about what moist things do in nature. You know, they just get gross, they just get stinky. The same thing happens in your water bowls. Even if they look really clean, for the most part, if you dump it out and you run your finger along it, oh, I ate allergies. Okay. Even if you have a water bowl that looks really clean, if you dump it out and you rub your finger along it, you should feel like a slimy layer, and that's just like the bacteria starting to grow. Now, when you're just dumping out the water and just adding in more, you're obviously not really taking care of the bacteria. What you should be doing is dumping out the water. If you have a second bowl, it's really good to let the first one dry out and then use the second bowl. But if you only have one bowl, let it dry out if you can, or at least go in with some Dawn dish soap. You can use any dish soap, you don't have to use Dawn, but just go in with some dish soap and some warm water and make sure you give it a really thorough scrubbing, and then you can use it. Or you can even put it in the dishwasher if that's something you want to do. So don't just dump out the water and add in more, because that's not really how you clean it.
Then the rabbits get to have free playtime in my basement because it is rabbit proofed, and they get to come out when I am home and I'm able to supervise them a bit. If I'm not home, they don't get to go out into the basement, even though it is rabbit proof, because they are the biggest troublemakers.
I think this is a really good point. A lot of people get upset that I don't recommend free roam. Free roam in the context that you're sharing a living space with your rabbit, not like you're doing what I am, where you just have a spare bedroom and you've converted that to a rabbit room. The issue with free roam is a lot of people say that you can eliminate all these dangers by rabbit proofing, and I completely agree, but rabbit proofing is not a surefire thing. Even things that were rabbit proofed before can easily become unrabbit proofed. Rabbit proofing is very personal and individualized to the rabbit, and it's also to the scenario. For example, baseboards. A lot of people are able to have rabbits in their bedrooms or free roam them and not have any issues with them chewing baseboards. Other people have to take very mild precautions, and other people, their rabbits are just so obsessed with baseboards, so you completely have to cover it. Sometimes things can be rabbit proofed, but you still need supervision, and that's why I don't always recommend sharing a living space with your rabbit. I don't know if this makes sense. Oh, they're so cute running around. I love it.
Then while the rabbits are playing, I go ahead and make them their daily salad.
Okay, so she made the salad. For the most part, everything was really good. She started with romaine lettuce. Love romaine lettuce. I use it for my rabbits. Then she did red leaf lettuce. Same thing. Love it. And then she added kale and spinach. I'm not a huge fan of these. I will admit, I do feed spinach occasionally to my rabbits because we always have some at home. But the issue with kale and spinach is that they're very high in oxalates. If you're into reptiles, you probably hear people saying all the time not to feed kale and spinach because they're calcium binding, and that's what the high in oxalates means. It's just a chemical that rabbits shouldn't have in excess. I feed kale very, very occasionally, maybe like less than like every couple months if we ever just have it in the house. I feed spinach like not even once a month. It just usually if we have a little bit of extra or I have to get the spring mix with spinach, I'll feed a little bit of it. But yeah, I really wouldn't recommend them. They're not really staple parts of your diet. I think there's a lot better alternatives you can use that are a lot healthier. So even though kale and spinach look like the leafy greens that you're supposed to be feeding your rabbits, just stay away from them.
So the rabbits get to just munch on their really big salad, and they very much enjoy it.
Oh, I love to see rabbits eating.
And of course the rabbits always end it with a big flop because their bellies are full.
Again, I think she did a really good job with her rabbits. Rabbit care is very personalized, so I'm not saying that she needs to change anything that she's doing. It's just, if you're watching this, there's maybe some things that she's doing that you might want to consider doing differently for your own rabbit. Also, this is the most up-to-date rabbit routine I could find on our channel, but it is from April 13th of 2019. Since then, she has moved and she has a completely different setup for her rabbit. So I'm sure that her routine has changed quite a bit, but this is just the most recent one that I could find to react to. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anything interesting that you learned from this video. See you guys next time. Bye!